Okay, well, media with Autopot. I mean, over the years, I've tried all different varieties of substrates. I mean, last year, I don't know if people saw it on social media, but I was growing tomatoes in my R&D facility in 8.5 litre pots in the easy to grow modules. And I tried to be a little bit more conscious on the quantity of substrates that I'm using. And I wanted to try and use that substrate again. So I grew a crop of tomatoes in, I think it was BioBiz substrates at the time, and maybe some others, I think, as well. So I grew the tomatoes in the 8.5 litre pots for around 11 months. And then thought, right, what I'll do, I will take those tomatoes down. I will then add beneficial bacteria, and I'll see if I can grow those tomatoes, new tomatoes, in the same 8.5 litre substrate that I'd used previously. Initially, everything went really, really well. And then the plant started to keel over. I was obviously very skeptical until I had a phone call and a conversation subsequently over the last several months with a guy called Ken Cooper from Wales. And Ken Cooper is a National Vegetable Society grower. And he had obviously been following what I was doing, and he applied what I was doing to what he was doing in his greenhouse with his tomatoes. But he was growing his tomatoes in 25 litre, the single modules. So he pretty much did what I did the year previous. Kept the same substrate, added beneficial bacteria, and grew tomato plants in the same substrate from the year before. It's a great success. I mean, we posted the photos up. Whether it will work well in smaller pots, that's probably out for, questioning. But it obviously seems to work with larger pots. So being able to reuse substrate, I think, needs a little bit of fine tuning, probably from a bit of practicing or a bit of trial and error from people within the industry. Looking at types of substrates that Autopot can use, there are huge varieties. I mean, we were commissioned, I think it was 2016, at the 11th hour in March by the Director of Science from RHS Wisley for the Royal Chelsea Flower Show. Alistair contacted us because he'd heard we had an R&D facility, and someone had pulled out at the Chelsea Flower Show and they needed to fill the gap. So we had roughly 8 weeks to get everything ready. When he initially contacted me, I thought he was contacting me for the following year. So it was all a bit of a, damn, what are we going to do here? And I grew beans, broad beans, coriander, various lentils, chickpeas, and we took substrates that were unusual because we were trying to create a concept where I think it was called Grow, Feed, Survive. And it was really targeted at refugee camps because obviously refugee camps have support from the Red Cross of food products coming in. We wanted to try and make them self-sustainable while they're in the refugee camps. So what we did, we grew in rice husks, we grew in water, we grew in plant reeds. So if you look at plant reeds around the pond, we chopped them up into tiny little bits, put them into the pot and grew plants in there as well. And we also grew in grow stones or recycled glass. So we've been looking at obviously substrates and media that can be used again and again and again to try and make things even more self-sustainable. And still to this date, we're looking at, way things are and the way things are used. But with regards to the hydroponic industry, it's a very, very innovative industry. A lot of people trial a lot of different sort of things and a lot of different sort of ways of growing. So with their help and with our trials, then with regards to substrates, we're pretty much the same as everybody else. You'll use it and generally you'll then reuse another substrate. You won't reuse that again. There are instances where BioTabs, for example, another sort of tablet form organic fertilizer, where they advise that you can probably use the substrate because they're impregnating their substrate with beneficial bacteria at the very beginning. So I think if you make your substrate alive at the beginning, then you'll have more chance of being able to use that substrate several times. If you don't start populating beneficial bacteria from the very beginning, grow a crop, and then try and supplement it at a later date, then that might be the issue that we were faced with initially.